to invite to the podium the chaplain of Covenant University, Pastor Judola, to lead us in opening prayers.
Shall we all rise in honor of Jesus as we pray? Our most gracious Father, we thank you for gathering us again this morning in this great event. We commit all of the proceedings this morning into thy hands. We ask that you take absolute control in the name of Jesus. And let all that we do today bring you glory and praise forever. In Jesus' precious name we have prayed. Please, let's be seated.
Sorry, please. In our standing positions, we will take the national anthem of Nigeria as well as the Rwandan national anthem. Then this Covenant University anthem will come next. Please, in that exact order. Thank you.
Marching on in this last
Please, may we be seated. The Chancellor, sir, it's my singular honor and privilege this morning to warmly welcome the Covenant University community, our distinguished guests and partners to this public lecture on the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. This event is hosted by Covenant University in active collaboration with the United Nations Information Center and the Rwanda High Commission in Nigeria, and it marks the 30th anniversary of this genocide. The theme of the 30th reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda is Remember, Unite, and Renew. This event is part of the official ceremonies to mark the 100 days of mourning usually held annually between April and July to remember the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Therefore, today here at Covenant University, we join our voices with that of the international community to say, Kwibuka. It's on this note that I would like to respectfully establish the protocol for this very unique event. The Chancellor and Chairman, Board of Regents, Covenant University, Dr. David O. Oyedepo. The Pro-Chancellor, Covenant University, Bishop David Abioye. Esteemed members of the Board of Regents of Covenant University, the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University, Professor Abiodun H. Adebayo, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Olujide A. Adekeye, the Registrar, Mrs. Regina A. Toby David, the Rwandan High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ambassador Christophe Bazivamo, keynote speaker for this prestigious event, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Muhammad Malik Fall, Director, United Nations Information Center, UNIC in Abuja, Ronald Kayanja, represented by Dr. Sheyi Shuremekun, the Olota of Ota, His Royal Majesty, Oba Professor Adeyemi Obalelege, Obakio, other distinguished guests here present, other principal officers of Covenant University, deans of colleges and School of Postgraduate Studies, members of the University Senate, faculty, staff, kings and queens in Hebron, members of the press here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. May I respectfully at this juncture bring to the podium the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University, Professor Abiodun H. Adebayo, to bring us his welcome remarks. Please put your hands together for him.
The Chancellor and Chairman Board of Regents, Dr. David O. Oyedepo. Please permit me to kindly stand on the already established protocol as I bring forth the Vice Chancellor's remark. I'm delighted to welcome everyone, particularly the Rwandan High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Royal Highness, or His Excellency, Christophe Bazimawo, the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Mohammed Malik Fall, and the keynote speaker, who was the immediate past Chief of Staff to the former Nigerian President and former Under-Secretary General and Special Advisor on Africa at the United Nations Secretariat in New York, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. I also welcome the United Nations Information Center, the Director, Ronald Kayanja, members of Covenant University Management, and other distinguished guests. We are pleased to collaborate with the United Nations Information Center in partnership with the Rwanda High Commission in Nigeria to host today's public lecture in commemoration of the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, which is the 30th anniversary. I'm delighted to note that our university also hosted the 25th anniversary. The commemorative anniversary lecture themed Remember, Unite, Renew calls for a deep retrospective journey into the past with a view to drawing lessons that would help us to unite for peace and prosperity and renew our collective resolve to fight against the forces of disunity, inhumanity, oppression, repression, regression, and war of all kinds, not only in Rwanda, but everywhere in the world. This is so because war anywhere is a threat to peace everywhere. Today's reflection is critical because those who do not remember the past or mind history are predestined to repeat history. We remember, therefore, the heinous crime of inhumane treatment meted out not only to the Tutsi, but the entire humanity that took place in Rwanda in 1994. This systemic massacre put at a figure of 800,000, and the figure is also not clear. Some said 1 million persons were killed, including men, women, children. In 100 days will forever be remembered as one of the most despicable events of the 20th century. According to the United Nations, it was a case of Rwandans killing Rwandans, brutally decimating the ethnic Tutsi population of the country and the moderate Hutus. This horrendous atrocity was committed not only by the militia and armed forces, but also by civilians against civilians. Unfortunately, the international community did not prevent the genocide, nor did it stop the killing once the genocide had begun. This failure understandably left deep wounds within Rwanda society and relationship between Rwanda and international community, particularly the United Nations. However, kudos must be given to the memory of the legacy of Mr. Kofi Annan, the then Secretary General of the United Nations, who dedicated his stewardship not only to ensuring the establishment of the truth as a panacea for healing the wounds, but also the pursuit of peace and restoration of prosperity in Rwanda. When we look at the post-genocide Rwanda superintended by the visionary president, Paul Kagame, and through the efforts of the United Nations, we can behold a nation that has arisen from the reign of hatred and horror of genocide to become a classic example of truth and reconciliation. We can also see a country that has emerged from the genocidal devastation. Indeed, Rwanda has become an oasis in the desert and beacon of hope for the African Renaissance. However, as we applaud these positive developmental strides recorded in Rwanda, a lot still needs to be done for its sustainability and to ensure a united polity where no citizen are oppressed on account of ethnicity or creed, especially in the post-Paul Kagame regime. Also, the United Nations should continue to use the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda to mobilize all global stakeholders, including civil society, for remembrance and education in order to help prevent future acts of genocide. Furthermore, it is also instructive to note that this reflection is coming at a time when when the world is witnessing the biggest number of armed conflicts since the end of the Second World War, with a quarter of the world's population living in conflict-affected areas, including Gaza, Ukraine, the Sahel, Sudan, Libya, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, Yemen, Miami, and Haiti. Also, more than 170,000 lives were lost to war and violent conflicts in 2023 alone, according to the reports from the armed conflict locations and event data projected and the United States News in 2024. In the war between Israel and Hamas alone, which started on October 7, when the Hamas terrorists killed 1,200 people and took 253 hostages during an attack on Israel, an estimated of 28,000 Palestinians have equally been killed in Gaza. Equally, according to the recent report by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, over 114 million people worldwide have been forced to flee their homes due to conflict, persecutions, and human rights violations. Likewise, the global economic impact of the armed conflict and violence has risen to over $70 trillion annually, according to the Global Peace Index for 2023. In all of these conflicts, leading to devastation of civilian lives, massive displacement, capital flight, destructions of infrastructure and economic institutions, violation of human rights and international humanitarians, the United Nations and its system have always played a pivotal role in maintaining international peace and security, protect human rights, deliver humanitarian aid, promote sustainable development, and uphold international laws. And also, the United Nations has been at the forefront of mobilizing international cooperation aimed at improving the well-being of the global international corporations, the global community. However, its efforts to foster a sustainable development mindset among the people everywhere in order to shape the future of life on the planet has continued to experience setback as a result of increasing global conflict. Just like the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, recently said, I want to also affirm that there is a need to prioritize dialogue over conflict and push for peace across the globe. It is from this backdrop that this commemorative anniversary lecture creates a unique opportunity to chart paths for reflective dialogue for global peace and sustainable progress. I'm sure today's lecturer, that is the public lecturer for today, is an accomplished diplomat, an erudite scholar, and will lead the way in his exposition. And therefore, I implore the participant, that is everyone here, particularly our kings and queens in Hebron, who are here to maximize the opportunity of the lecture to enrich their knowledge base in the areas of international politics, diplomacy, peace, and conflict resolution. As a world-class university, which is committed to raising a new generation of leaders in all spheres of human lives, we identify with the United Nations mission, the goals, as depicted in its sustainable development goals, noting that the future we want has been encapsulated in SDG 17 with a framework to tackle prevailing threats to global prosperity, social well-being, and the environment. Finally, I'd like to appreciate the United Nations Information Center and the High Commission of Rwanda in Nigeria for the privilege of this collaboration to host today's public lecture in commemoration of the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Also, I congratulate the President and the people of Rwanda on this auspicious occasion of the 30th anniversary of the genocide. Pray for enduring peace and prosperity in Rwanda and indeed the African continent. In Jesus' name. Once again, welcome to Covenant University, the birthplace of kings and queens. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Permit me to stand on all already established protocol. At this juncture, we move to the next item, which is the candlelight session and the minute of silence. I respectfully want to invite the Chancellor, Dr. David Oyedepo, to the table of candles to light the candle. Everybody. Followed by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Abiodun Adebayo, followed by the Rwandan Ambassador, His Excellency Ambassador Christophe Baziavamo, followed by Professor Ibrahim Gambari, followed by Dr. Oluseyi Shoremeko, and Dr. Ernest Ebi. So the candles will be lit one after the other. The Chancellor first. Yes, sir. There are candles under your seats. You can bring them out. Under your seats, there is a candle. There's a button at the bottom. There's a button at the bottom. Just turn it on. Can we have a moment of silence? A moment of silence of the dearly departed. May the souls of the dearly departed victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda rest in peace. Thank you so much. You may have your seat. I will now be inviting the Rwandan High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Ambassador Christophe Baziavamo, to give his opening speech.
High leadership of a university, Covenant University, Your Royal Majesté, Professor Adoyemi Obalandege, Excellency, founder of Savannah Center for Diplomacy, Democracy and Development, former Undersecretary General and Head of United Nations Department of Political Affairs, former Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Nigeria to the United Nations, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, distinguished Chancellor and Vice Chancellor of Covenant University, distinguished Director of United Nations Information Center, Mr. Ronald David Kayanja, Honorary Council of Rwanda in Lagos, Dr. Ebi, esteemed deans and heads of faculty, members of student body, you are change makers, and honored guests. I want to thank the United Nations in Nigeria and the management of the Covenant University to join us, Rwandans, to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. This horrific event left an enduring scar on our nation's collective memory. Informed by the theme, remember, unite, renew, we honor over 1 million innocent lives of Tutsi tragically lost. So I wish here actually to confirm that this over 1 million lost Tutsi during the genocide is the number we are actually having today in Rwanda, and I can testify it as the one who have conducted an assessment in the country in 2003, 2004. At that time, I was Minister of Local Government. And we were to move house to house in each or areas of the country. It was a team of consultants to find out who is no more there, who has been taught, how many children who are remaining as victims, and we came up with actually 1,071 and 074 people we lost. But from that time, there is no other assessment which has been done. Until now, this is what we have as the official figure. And this is just to say we have lost a lot of people, but even if it was one, nobody is allowed to kill whoever because of how he has born. So we honor these people, but we also celebrate the strength of survivors and reaffirm Rwanda's commitment to a future where such devastation will never again take hold. For 1994, genocide against the Tutsi was not a sudden eruption, but the culmination of colonial manipulation that twisted social identities, and later on followed by bad governance regimes which fostered dangerous divisionism and ethnicity among Rwandans. This insidious ideology fueled a meticulously planned campaign of extermination. Within less than 100 days, over 1 million lives of Tutsi were lost as too many in the whole world failed to act. In remembering those we lost, we fulfill our sacred duty. We honor their lives by ensuring their stories are neither silenced nor distorted, or their memories are never erased. In shared remembrance like this, we find strength and profound unity, a beacon of hope guiding us towards a world where the seeds of hatred cannot bear such bitter fruit. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Rwanda's path to healing and reconciliation has been long yet transformative, drawing from the principle of homegrown solutions to unique challenges. The innovative Gacaca courts, which are community-based tribunals, played a pivotal role because unlike traditional court systems, Gacaca extended beyond punishment, emphasizing confession, truth-telling, and community healing. Victims and perpetrators were empowered to voice their experiences, fostering a journey towards shared understanding. This approach, grounded in Rwanda tradition, was integral to rebuilding the nation's social fabric. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Rwanda's rebirth under the visionary leadership of His Excellency Paul Kagame is a testament to the power of right choices. At the heart of our progress lies unwavering unity, exemplified by our inclusive constitution and commitment to reconciliation. There lies relentless accountability with effective anti-corruption measures and a spirit of ambition that motivates us to think big. Furthermore, we have made technology a pillar of development, investing in ICT infrastructure and innovative solutions to enhance efficiency across various sectors. And indeed, we consider that development is inevitable where innovation is a culture. Rwanda's journey has also been marked by incredible advancements in gender equality. With the world's highest percentage of women in parliament, Rwanda proves that female leadership benefits all society. This, combined with poverty reduction, education for all, and improved health care systems, reflects a nation dedicated to building a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Rwanda's story is one of resilience and determination, proving that even from the darkest chapters, a nation can rise and craft its own extraordinary destiny. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while celebrating our progress, we acknowledge the ongoing work of reconciliation. The wounds of the past run deep, and healing is an ongoing process. It takes time, patience, and continuous effort. Yet, even while facing these challenges, Rwanda's resilience remains unwavering. The path to lasting peace demands constant vigilance. as we renew, we restate our unbreakable pledge to fight intolerance, discrimination, ethnic hatred, hate speech, genocide, revisionism, and denial in all their forms. Unfortunately, as you know, this is still happening today, even just beyond Rwanda's borders in the Great Lakes region. But we should never allow the embers of hatred to reignite. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I extend my deepest gratitude to the government and people of Nigeria for your unwavering solidarity throughout our journey, which we have been actually witnessing. Special thanks to His Excellency Professor Ibrahim Gambari, today here with us as keynote speaker. Who, as the permanent representative of Nigeria to the UN, demanded a more decisive international response in the face of the crisis. He was very courageous, while actually the whole world was shy on the killings of innocent Tutsi in Rwanda at that time. On this occasion of Kwibuka 30, let's together ensure that the memory of the victims becomes a powerful force for good, inspiring future generations to choose peace over hate, unity over division, and hope over despair. This can be achieved in different ways, including putting course lessons about the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in schools, and the establishment of memory symbols in remembrance of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi to educate the young and the next generation on the need to fight hate ideologies and stand against any form of discrimination and divisionism. Let me maybe also inform you that in this year, the UN, let's say UNESCO, has put 4 genocide against the Tutsi memorials as World Heritage. So they have been actually classed at that area, and it is one of actually the sign of supporting whoever is fighting against genocide, wherever it will be happening. And this is what we should be understanding, and it is the way we should be working in. Let us work together to build a world where such atrocities never happen again. Let us renew our commitment to the values of tolerance, compassion, and human dignity in our transformative journey, continuously building a better future for all. To conclude, as we keep commemorating, it is really a privilege to have friends and partners like you who stand with us as we come together as Rwandans to reflect on our journey from devastation and loss to peace, unity, and steadily realizing our aspirations for prosperity. This demonstration of solidarity brings even deeper meaning to our commemoration as we remain resolute that Rwanda's stability is ensured for generations to come. Thank you once again for organizing this Kwibuka within Covenant premises, Covenant University. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We will right away be having a video documentary that depicts the seasons during the genocide and immediately afterwards, and then the path to recovery. Studio, please. Please note that some of the visuals may be disturbing.
Rwanda, a country of 1,000 hills. This is a beautiful country, one summit after the next, surrounded by meandering valleys, a paradise by all accounts. And yet, these hills guard secrets so dark, many will never be told. But as many can be, should be. Not for the benefit of Rwanda alone, but because everyone should know what happened here. Kigali, capital city of Rwanda. An ordinary city with people coming and going to school, running their businesses and making their way to church just like anywhere else. But there is hardly a place that you can put your foot here without being on the spot where someone was once beaten, raped, or slashed to death by a machete. This whole country is a memorial to the dead, and yet it still has to live. It is Mass at Sanfami Church. There are about 2,000 worshippers packed into this barn-like sanctuary today. During the genocide of 1994, the church became a sanctuary of another kind, as thousands of Tutsi fled there in April to seek shelter. 2 months later, in June, over 1,000 were saved. Then the militia slaughtered those that remained behind, in the church, its grounds, and in mass graves nearby.
So they had small trucks here and down there. So they would take people, tie them together, and put them in the truck. And then these people were taken in the mass grave. They were killed on the mass grave, which was at the sector's office.
It was extremely terrible for the women because men, women were all targeted. And at first we didn't know they would kill women, you know. So women were collected in churches with their children in search of protection. But these killers, the genocidaires, also targeted the women.
The Church of Sanfami is typical of hundreds of sites where massacres took place. It is at once a place of worship in the present and a memorial to the past. Here the living reside with the memory of the dead on every street, in every church, on every hilltop. This is Gisozi. Here in these mass graves, the dead have been gathered up from shallow graves, roadside hedgerows and forest undergrowth, and then buried alongside each other. Very few of these coffins contain the remains of a single person. Stacked up with rough dignity, some contain dislocated fragments of up to 30 people. Brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, locked now in their crowded tomb. And then there are those who still await their final destination, whose fate hangs in the balance between presentation and deterioration. It seems so unfair they are still kept waiting. But strangely, not all survivors want the evidence to be buried. Not yet, anyway. One suggests to me that once they are buried, they become nothing more than beds of flowers, and then conveniently forgotten. On the slopes of the hillside are the rotting clothes of exhumed corpses, some with forearm bones still in the sleeves they once wore. And not 50 meters away, the near-completed memorial building designed to tell the story of the genocide, with neither artifacts nor images to tell that haunting narrative as yet.
First of all, the number of people who are killed in our country, 1 million in 100 days. It's not easy to comprehend, you know. So even the management, you never know where to begin. We had over 400,000 orphans. To us, after the genocide, the children were our priority. So the issue of the memory, first of all, we have human remains scattered all over, you know. We've not managed to finish to bury the dead. We've got about 200 sites in our country, you know. We've tried to keep some churches, to keep some buildings. Some people have tried to construct, but everything is unfinished.
Rwanda wants to tell its story, but does not know how. And so, both the living and the dead are waiting patiently, in silence. It's raining at Bisesero when we arrive. The hilltop is covered in a dense cloud and there is not a soul to be seen. We take cover in the half-built memorial that looks like a relic of an archaeological dig from another age. It is difficult to believe that the genocide only took place 7 years ago when you stand in this desolate ruin. Out of the rain comes a lone survivor who opens the door to the inevitable chamber of horrors. This time, more than 1,000 skulls are waiting in the gloom for someone to give them meaning for their existence. We climb the steps to the top of the hill where the mass grave is. Out of the trees emerge survivors who have learned of our arrival. They want to know why we are there and what we can tell to the rest of the world about their story. They feel betrayed and seek assurances that we will use their words to prevent a repetition of the past. But then you realize just how fragile things are when you look out from these fresh graves to the refugee camp recently erected to house Tutsi fleeing from former genocidaires just across the border. But at Bisesero, there is no one to tell the story of the thousands that were murdered there, or the stories we rarely hear of heroism and resistance. Murambi is perched on a quiet hilltop where it was decided 15 years ago to build a school. Although not quite complete in 1994, most of the buildings were constructed. Now, they are memorials in their own right. It is said that 27,000 Tutsi were murdered on this hilltop. Many were buried in mass graves at the site itself. But a couple of thousand corpses have been held back as evidence of the atrocities. The old and the young, mothers and babies, are laid out here in their limed existence on wooden slats for beds. This picture of still life, of a community frozen for all time, is one of the most grotesque and yet powerful statements of the overwhelming power of genocide. The problem now is what to do next. These corpses cannot lie here forever. Even they need a final resting place. I inquire as to who will care for them, who will meet the cost of some form of dignity, and who will tell the story that needs to be told. Pressing questions with few answers. And so, for the foreseeable future, they must lie and wait.
There is a particular site which is so special to us, the Nyamata site where a number of women and children were killed, Their fathers left them in that small church for protection and went to protect the village. So these genocidal passed behind and killed all the children and the mothers, Now the bodies are just there, the skulls are there. You can even see, where they were cutting babies. You can see it, You can see on the head, you can see the skulls, So we feel this is part of memory that should not be lost, But how to keep it and how to preserve it is a big challenge for us.
There are memorial sites everywhere in Rwanda. At Songa on the roadside, at Kabgayi by the first colonial monastery, at Kibuye in the stadium, at Butare in the university where teaching staff killed their own students and colleagues, and at the Ito school at Kichikiro, where the United Nations was protecting over 2,000 frightened Tutsi who had sought shelter with them. Today, they lie at Nyanga, a few hundred meters up the road, where they were taken and butchered after the UN had left them at the mercy of their killers. And so, the genocide is everywhere. And if this were not difficult enough, today the killers are either in jail, in the very towns in which they killed, or worse, living in their own homes in impunity. Justice is a difficult word in such circumstances, as justice can never be done and yet has to be seen to be done. And so the creation of local traditional courts, the gacaca, literally meaning on the grass, will allow communities themselves to decide how justice should be done. But beyond justice, Rwanda has to learn to live with itself. Reconciliation is a tall order because the past will always be present. But there is a future too. Already there is a generation to teach that does not remember. And those who fled a generation before it all started and then returned after it was over are already more than one step removed. So memory and learning is fundamental for everyone here. These sites are in Rwanda, but they're not Rwanda's sites. These are our sites too, places where we must discover ourselves. I would that we could blame this genocide on some primitive African tribal conflict. But this genocide was West European, infused with ideology, moulded through propaganda, bureaucratically systematic, brutally efficient. These are sites to teach the world lessons it should have learned long ago. We should preserve them, pay for them, and tell our children about them. Today at Murambi, UNHCR ground sheets protect the corpses of the dead from the elements. 7 years ago, a little protection from the United Nations might have kept these corpses alive.
I think there is a lot to learn because the genocide that took place in Rwanda was preventable. It happened in the presence of the UN. We even protected the UN, The liberators protected the UN first.
The international community, first of all, has a heavy responsibility of what happened here and the responsibility of not being able to stop the genocide, which was very, very easy to do. Two, I think the international community should react strongly on the situation in Rwanda, to rebuild the country, to keep the memory, to help the survivors, to assist economic-wise to rebuild the country, because this is very, very important.
I think the women feel most the pain of the conflict, Rwanda needs a special understanding. People have to know that this is a very unique situation we inherited. It was very bad, and people should care if really, not even on just as individuals, This is a crime against humanity.
In Rwanda, there is a story that needs to be told. It is important for its own life and stability as it starts all over again. Commemorating the past and telling the story is part of preventing its repetition. The story also needs to be told, particularly to the likes of me that sat in my armchair at home and watched these people die. We need to unlock the secrets of that story in its horrible, gruesome, devastating truth.
This is Rwanda today, a country transformed over the past 30 years. This new Rwanda has been forged out of the ashes of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, an event that shocked the world. Our story offers a warning of what can happen when political leaders preach division and hatred triumphs over humanity. But it also tells us what can be achieved when a determined people fight together for unity and reconciliation. This new Rwanda has been forged out of the ashes of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, an event that shocked the world. Our story offers a warning of what can happen when political leaders preach division and hatred triumphs over humanity. But it also tells us what can be achieved when a determined people fight together. This is our journey, told by those who have traveled together as we have moved from despair to hope. For much of the world, Rwanda first existed in 1994. And yet, our story starts long before this. Before colonialism, Rwandans had a rich culture, one language, and the people were united around their own organic form of governance. This all changed when colonial powers chose to control Rwandans by ethnicity, creating division and conflict where none had existed previously. This division grew into hatred and violence, culminating in the genocide against the Tutsi, where over 1 million people were murdered in 100 days.
Maze kubona bikomeye, abantu batwika, abantu barya inka, abantu batemagurana za bariyeri bazishyizeho, yewe n'abana na madamu tujya kwa databukwe. Bari bafite imbaraga nyinshi. Abo bana rero bahamaze iminsi mike, hanyuma musaza wa madamu, se wabo, uvindimwe na se, n'abandi b'abavandimwe babo, nibo bafashe iya mbere, nta wundi wivanzemo babajyana muri Nyabarongo. Barabaheka baragenda babata muri Nyabarongo, barangije barataha.
Muri Genocide 94 banyiciye imiryango yanjye mu bana 9 nabyaye, hasigayemo twana tubiri.
Abana ba Mariya babiri n'umugabo wa Mariya, abo bose badusanze kuri bariyeri twe turagera kubica.
Abagabo bacu babazamuye mu ngo bababwira ngo tugende tujye kwirinda, ariko bo bazi ikigiye kuvamo. Bahera ku mugabo wanjye kuko bari kuri list, bahita bamutsinda aho ngaho haruguru y'urugo gatoya, barabarashe, bamurashe amasasu, umwana ngo niyusha mbaye hanuyo.
This genocide was long planned by the government of the time, who used education and the media to divide Rwandans, creating the conditions for the genocide to happen. The preparation of the genocide and of the 100 days of killings happened in full view of the world, who stood by, watched, and did nothing. No one came to Rwanda's rescue. The killings were only stopped when the Rwanda Patriotic Front overthrew the genocidal government. From that moment, Rwandans began the long, hard road to recovery, healing, and reconciliation.
Mu mwaka w'ibihumbi 2004 nibwo nafashe icyemezo cyo gusaba imbabazi Mariya. Mfati umwanzuro numvaga nti se wenda yaba ntari namusanzeyo kuko numvaga mfite ubwoba. Nkongera nkavuga nti se ubundi amaherezo yazaba yahe. Ngize amahirwe rero ubwo nuvuga ngo Mariya asanze ariyo. Nibwo nti uko biri kose urabizi ngiye ndi mu bantu nyine bakwiciye ariko noneho ndagira ngo umimbabazi.
Byagiye bigenda gahoro uko dusabana, uko duhura, uko tuvugana, uko twigishwa, hace mu nyigisho nyinshi cyane. Ntabwo byari byoroshye.
Ahari ahantu neza nemereye neza ko imbabazi yazimpaye. Narangiye ku isantere ahantu bambonye Mariya, naramuhamagaye turasangira, mbona aremeye turasangira. Muri njye uwo munsi numvise ariko nafunguwe, numvise ariko mvuye muri gereza.
To heal the wounds of a nation where neighbors killed neighbors, and even some family members turned on each other, the new Rwanda had to find a way to deliver justice for the victims, which could manage the scale of the crimes, and could also heal the torn social fabric of our society. So, we turned to our history for the answer. We set up Gacaca tribunals, a traditional form of community justice where citizens elected inyangamugayo, men and women of integrity in their communities, who heard almost 2 million genocide cases. This not only ensured that justice was delivered, but also established the truth of the killings. Reconciliation could begin at last.
Gacaca zimaze kugeramo abaturage tugakorana, bari abafunguye bakaza bagashinjanya. Kanaka uwe kanaka twajyanye mu gitero, uwe kanaka twajyanye mu gitero, ngo kuko abakoze genocide, ngo kuko bagaragaye.
Abenshi ro muri Gacaca byatumye bamenya uko ababo bishwe, barihangana barabyakira, bamenya naho bajuguwe.
We asked that the genocide survivors make huge sacrifices by putting aside their desire for retribution in favor of forgiveness and reconciliation. And we asked all Rwandans to leave the ethnic divisions in the past and embrace a future of Ndumunyarwanda, where we are all Rwandan.
Nabaga muri CNLD, naje mfite ipeti rya General de Brigade. Kuyo dufata icyemezo tukava muri CNLD tukaza mu Rwanda, nuko twari tumaze kumenya neza ko leta y'u Rwanda ifite gahunda nziza yo kunga abanyarwanda, ikangurira abanyarwanda aho bari hose batahuke mu mahoro, kandi waza ikakwakira neza nk'umunyarwanda, ugatura aho ushaka utuje utekanye nta kibazo gihari. Muri ADF igihe mazemo nabonye nta vangura ribamo, umuntu akora akazi ashinzwe nta kindi.
Rwanda is still a work in progress. It is up to the next generations to learn the true story of our past, to protect against genocide, denial, and hate, and keep the memory and the lessons of our history alive.
En fait, le négationnisme est en pleine expansion sur Internet, sur les réseaux sociaux, puis sur Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Le discours n'a pas changé. Certaines personnes vont, par exemple, prétendre que le génocide n'a pas été planifié, mais que les gens se sont mis en colère et ont commencé à tuer. Il faut qu'on soit plus nombreux à protéger la vérité, à protéger l'histoire du génocide contre les Tutsis sur ces plateformes-là.
We have made progress across every sector, creating a secure and ambitious country which offers opportunity and hope to all Rwandans.
Byahindutse ni byinshi nyuma ya jenoside yakorewe Abatutsi. Umwana ariko akabona buruse atitawe ngo n'ukwande. Ndi umukobwa ukora mu bijyanye n'ubuvuzi ndetse nkaba ndi no muri siporo kandi byose nkambikora neza. Rero umwana w'umukobwa icyo ramubwira nuko turashoboye muri rusange, ibyo twajyamo byose dushoboye kubikora neza, ndetse turanahagarariwe hirya no hino kugeza ku mudugudu, turahagarariwe n'ijwi ryacu rishobora kumvikana.
For our friends around the world, we thank you for continuing to stand with us and ask you to share Rwanda's story and what we've learned about division and reconciliation at a time when the world seems increasingly more fractured. Rwanda's experience is one of unimaginable loss, but it is also the story of a people determined, of resilience, of sacrifice, and of rebirth. Rwanda today is proof that out of the depths of despair can come great hope.
Can we put our hands together more? Yeah. Thank you so much. Kwibuka, to remember. As we remember and reflect, we also say never again. So we're calling on the United Nations Secretary. We're going to be having the message from the United Nations Secretary General, and that will be taken by Dr. Oluseyi Shuremekun, who is the National Information Officer of United Nations Information Center. He is actually representing the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Mohammed Malik Fall. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you very much. Covenant University Visionary and Chancellor, Dr. David Oyedepo, sir. The High Commissioner of Rwanda in Nigeria, His Excellency Christophe Bazivamu, my boss, the former Chief of Staff to the President of Nigeria, and also the Under-Secretary General and Special Assistant on Africa at the UN headquarters in New York. He was also, at the time, the permanent rep of Nigeria to the United Nations, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. I also recognize an erudite scholar, a professor of mass communication, the Olota of Ota, Kabiesi, Professor Oba Adeyemi Obalanlege, Kabiesi. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring warm greetings from the Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator of the United Nations in Nigeria, Mr. Malik Mohammed Fall, who is currently on mission outside the country. I also bring warm wishes from the Director of the United Nations Information Center in the country, Ronald Kayanja. As it is the practice of the United Nations on an occasion like this when we are reflecting on the genocide, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, always issued a statement. And on this day, I have his statement, which Mohammed Fall would have presented. And I read, on this day in 1994, and for the nearly 100 days that followed, 1 million Tutsi children, women, and men were killed by their fellow Rwandans. Families turned against families, friends became foes, and a dark spirit of intentional and brutal violence engulfed our nation. We will never forget the victims of this genocide, nor will we ever forget the bravery and resilience of those who survived, whose courage and willingness to forgive remain a burst of light and hope amidst this dark chapter in human history. This year, we remind ourselves of genocide's rancid root, hate. To those who will seek to divide us, we must deliver a clear, unequivocal, and urgent message: never again. We can draw a straight line between the senseless slaughter of 1 million Tutsi, as well as some Hutu and others who opposed the genocide, and the decades of hate speech that preceded it, inflamed by ethnic tensions and the long shadow of colonialism. Today, around the world, the darker impulses of humanity are being awakened once more by the voices of extremism, division, and hate. On this solemn day of remembrance, let's pledge to stand as one against all forms of hatred and discrimination. Let's ensure that the acts that began on April 7, 1994 are never forgotten and never repeated anywhere. Antonio Guterres. Thank you.
At this juncture, it's my singular honor to invite the keynote speaker, Professor Ibrahim Gambari.
The Chancellor and Chairman Board of Regents, Dr. David O. Oyedepo, with whom I share some affinities. First, I think we're from the same state. Umara and Ilorin are in Kwara State. But the second affinity that I'm privileged to share is that I'm also currently Chancellor of a sister faith-based university here in Ogun State, Crescent University. The Pro-Chancellor, Convent University, Bishop Abioye, esteemed members of the Board of Regents here present, Vice Chancellor, Professor Adebayo, whom I had the privilege to meet just a little while ago, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, other principal officers of this great university, the Rwandan High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ambassador Christopher Basivano, the UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, represented here, including also representing the Director of United Nations Information Center. They are represented here by Dr. Shuremeku, His Royal Highness, the Olota of Ota. Because if I don't mention that, I have another affinity, which perhaps I may answer questions in the Emir of Ilorin's palace when I go back. That did I give due recognition to the brother traditional ruler here? Dr. Ernest Ebi, distinguished guests, deans of colleges and schools of postgraduate studies, members of the University Senate, faculty and staff, kings and queens in Hebron, members of my own entourage, Dr. Ajayi, Maruf Giwa, Dejibadejo, and Ibrahim Lawa Ahmed, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. In an address by the then and now late Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kofi Annan, on the 10th anniversary of the genocide in Rwanda, which I had the honor to deliver on his behalf on the 7th of April 2004, he said, and I want to quote, and I'll speak slowly because it's important. On this International Day of Reflection on the Genocide, I would like to pay tribute to the people of Rwanda for the remarkable resilience and great dignity they have shown in recovering from their national trauma and the inclusive spirit under which the government of Rwanda has pursued the path of reconciliation, the path of reconstruction, and through thus, Rwanda has much to show the world about confronting the legacy of the past and is demonstrating that it's possible to reach beyond tragedy and rekindle hope. Confronting the legacy of the past and demonstrating that it's possible to reach beyond tragedy and rekindle hope. That's why we continue to commemorate that tragedy of 1994 so that we don't forget the past, but we also show that it's possible to move from disaster and tragedy and rekindle hope. But the late Secretary General then posed the question, is the international community confident that we have learned the lessons of Rwanda? And will government respond effectively and in good time next time? To which Kofi Annan answered, and I quote again, we can by no means be certain that this will happen. Sadly, the questions raised by Kofi Annan and the answer he provided are as pertinent today as they were 20 years ago when he raised those questions and provided that answer. Indeed, the continued relevance of the issues raised will be illustrated through the case which South Africa brought before the International Court of Justice at The Hague with regards to the ongoing war in Gaza, where, of course, October 7, over 1,000 people were killed by Hamas, one of the parties to this conflict, and over 40,000 Palestinians who have been killed in reprisal. In my view, precisely because genocide ranks along war crime, along with crime against humanity, and violations of international humanitarian law with horrendous impact and consequences, some of which you saw in the video that we've just watched, the overriding concern of the international community should be to act collectively and effectively to prevent genocide from happening anywhere in the world. In this regard, the questions are, why did the United Nations, especially the Security Council and the international community, fail Rwanda during the 1994 genocide? After all, those of you who are familiar with the Charter of the United Nations says the Security Council has primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. It didn't say everywhere except in Africa. It said primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. But the genocide happened. The United Nations was there. And the question that we must all continue to ask, when in reaction to the genocide in Rwanda, or even if you want to go earlier to the tragedy of the murder of Jews in the Second World War, when the war says never again, never again, but can we be sure that that never again will go beyond a slogan? And that's why in my presentation, I would like to just take a few minutes to explain the UN's failure to respond to the 1994 Rwandan genocide. And I'm taking a little bit of time to explain because I was there as the representative of Nigeria in the Security Council as a non-permanent member. As you know, the Security Council has 15 members, 5 of them permanent: America, Russia, China, France, and Britain, and 10 rotating non-permanent members. So in a sense, I was an observer and a participant in what went on in the Security Council during the genocide. And I'll make the point that while the work of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda between 1995 and 2011 was key in achieving many victories for justice, because where there is no justice, there will be no peace. Two things we have to take away. Where there is no justice, there will be no peace. Secondly, whereas the politics of any community, country, state practice the politics of exclusion, you are not going to have peace. Justice and inclusion are critical. And nonetheless, this was what the Security Council and the UN failed to uphold in the post-Cold War conflicts. And the Rwandan genocide, therefore, exposed serious structural and policy failures in the UN system. In particular, the tragedy and the failure of the United Nations, of the people of Rwanda, shows that the Security Council, which had plenty of warnings about the impending tragedy in Rwanda, failed to fulfill its primary responsibility under the Charter to maintain international peace and security. Without a doubt, and I want to say clearly now, today, it was the Security Council, especially its most powerful members, that failed the people of Rwanda in their greatest hour of need. And this conclusion, in case anyone is in doubt, is clear from the testimony of General Romeo Dallaire, the Canadian former force commander of the United Nations mission in Rwanda, UNAMID, at the ICTR in February 1998. And please listen carefully what he said. He's a Canadian heading a United Nations peacekeeping mission in Rwanda at the time of the genocide. He said, with a well-armed group of 5,000 men, and a proper mandate, the United Nations could have stopped the slaughter of hundreds of thousands of Rwandans. And when the Security Council, at a point, decided that instead of responding forcefully, effectively, they decided to actually reduce the size of the UN peacekeeping mission there. Guess what? And it's never mentioned, or rarely mentioned, that the Ghanaian battalion, because you know this peacekeeping is composed of several countries, decided to disobey the Security Council. They refused to go when the Security Council said they should leave. It was led by General Aido, and he sent to his President Rowley, then President Rowley, and he said, the Security Council asked us to reduce at a time when we should massively increase. You are an African president, and this is important. I'll come to it in my concluding remarks. He said, I have a battalion there. With your permission, I would disobey United Nations order and stay. And he stayed, took over the stadium in Kigali, and dared these genociders to come and try to kill the Tutsis. And he saved over 5,000 lives. If nobody mentions it, we Africans should mention it. And it proves the point that, and I'll come again to my conclusion, if we want the world to act, we must act ourselves. We must act. And I also now going back to the United Nations Security Council. Peacekeeping should not be used to advance parochial national interests. It will be recalled in this connection that as the Rwanda genocide began in April 1994, 10 Belgian soldiers were killed while serving in the 2,500-strong United Nations mission in Rwanda. As a result, guess what? Belgium decided, so while Ghana said we are going to stay, the Belgians decided to go, to leave, and they were the backbone of this force. But guess what? They not only decided to go, but they decided to go in a way to bring down the entire mission. You know? And they used their connection as members of NATO to persuade the Americans, the British, and the French, who were the powerful members of the Security Council, to just bring down the entire mission. So I'm arguing that if you are part of a post-peacekeeping mission, you should not try to use the Security Council that authorizes them to bring down the very purpose for which they were established. Because in the case of Rwanda and in the case of Belgium, the withdrawal of the UN contingents was a clear signal to the genociders that the world was not interested in halting the slaughters of Rwandese. One of the most serious flaws in the mandated mission of the UN in Iraq was that Belgium, an ex-colonial power, which could not be perceived as neutral and impartial actor in the politics of Rwanda, they were part of the problem. They created, in a large part, the problem, was allowed to contribute to keep the peace. Okay? It's like leaving a lunatic in charge of, leaving the asylum to be put in the charge of lunatics. Actors with direct interest and scope in countries should not be permitted to take place in a collective United Nations Security Council mandated missions. Secondly, states not willing to implement the mandate should not contribute troops. Because during the Rwandan crisis, the political positions adopted by many member states at the headquarters and the UN Secretariat was that they were mostly concerned about their own troops and the potential political repercussions in their respective capitals of peacekeepers returning home in body bags. While these concerns may be legitimate, these countries ignored the moral and overriding duty to help save defenseless civilians who were dying and being massacred under the very noses of the UN peacekeepers. So if you are not ready and willing to walk the talk, you should not contribute troops to peacekeeping missions. Because contributing to peacekeeping is a serious exercise, and unless the member state is willing to implement the UN mandate fully, the international community is better served if those states do not contribute troops to the mission. Let me bring this closer to home. You know, there will be no Sierra Leone today, if Nigeria did not make the sacrifice and take the lead in ECOMOG to save that country. Yeah. I want to give you another figure. Okay? In 1999, 800 Nigerian soldiers died in Sierra Leone under ECOMOG. But we still stayed in peacekeeping because, again, making the point that if we don't do it, the outside world will not come to our assistance. And leadership means, making sacrifice. Now, what happened in the Security Council when there was the debate going on about the genocide? Some of the most powerful countries said, well, this is a conflict, tribal conflict among Africans. It's too complicated, we don't understand it. Then, myself as representative of Nigeria, the only African that actually spoke up, Czech Republic ambassador, and the ambassador in faraway New Zealand said, no. Something terrible is going on here, genocide. And you know why they didn't want us to mention the word genocide? Because if the Security Council were to say genocide is going on in Rwanda, the big countries were obliged by the International Convention Against Genocide to intervene, and they have decided not to intervene. As a matter of fact, the United States position at that time was that no American soldier's life is worth dying in an African conflict because of what happened to them in Somalia. You recall, some of you may recall, they sent peace troops as part of UN peacekeeping. 17 of them also were killed. The bodies were dragged, shouldn't have been dragged along the streets in Somalia, and they said no. So actually the position was to say, just bring down the entire UN, let's get out of here, to abandon these people to their fate. So some of them said no. If we, Nigeria at that time, we had no embassy in Kigali. I said, me, ambassador of Nigeria, we have no embassy, but I know from sources, including open sources, that genocide is going on. You that have big embassies, France, UK, America absolutely know that genocide is going on. And so the Secretary General of the UN then, Brutus Gallia, this is the second point that I'm going to make. The first time somebody from Africa, not Africa, but still Africa, became Secretary General, he was asked to present what are the options. The first option he put was that there should be massive reinforcement of the UN presence there to stop the genocide once it commenced. There was no taker. The powerful countries, they were not interested. The second was to close the entire mission and leave the Africans to their devices. But even their hypocrisy could not permit them to cut and run. And some of us challenged them, say, you can't run because it's your responsibility under the charter. It didn't say except when it comes to Africa. So the third was to immediately reduce the number of the troops, hoping that the situation would be better, and then increase them later, as we did in May 1994, when Nigeria was the president of the Security Council. We increased it to 5,000. But by then, the damage has been done. 1 million people have been killed. But we didn't know at that time that it would end. And it only ended, as it was shown in the movie, when the Rwanda Patriotic Front's members took over and ended the genocide. Now, what was even more sad was at the time that we were fighting to increase the number of troops in Rwanda at the time of need, the same Security Council passed a resolution supporting the French to launch an operation in Congo. Guess what? They said humanitarian support, but these were where those who perpetrated this genocide ran, the genociders. And then the UN Security Council passed a resolution supporting that action. Now you might have asked, what was Nigeria doing there? And others. We had no veto. And I'll come to another final recommendation. You see, we couldn't stop the resolution. No veto. Because the Security Council is composed in such a way that all continents have permanent seat and veto in the Security Council except Africa. Except Africa. And we are 54 members of this United Nations. So when that resolution came, the most I could do as ambassador of Nigeria was to say, we don't support this, we abstain. And we are hoping that if a number of countries abstain enough, we might prevent the resolution. Not enough abstained. And I described that action by the Security Council to support France in the so-called humanitarian operation while we abandoned the Rwanda as hour of need. And I called it a reluctant decision by a divided Security Council. And the French ambassador, I remember what he told me, he said, yes, it may be a reluctant decision, but we got the decision. And he says, you see, the ambassador of Nigeria, don't forget, this is 1994, when we had problems about, June 12th, said, you see, we had the numbers here. Democracy has won in the Security Council. Go and practice democracy in your country. And I said, well, that's not the issue. It's an issue of double standards. In a clear case of genocide, you refused to act, but the powerful supported the French. So, this Rwandan tragedy illustrated an enormous contrast between the international community wish to prevent or halt genocide on the one hand, and the Security Council's support for intervention authorized by its most powerful members on the other. So while the Security Council refused to deploy a robust, large-scale force to stop the genocide, it stood behind the French when they asked for a mission that served a specific, limited purpose. And I also made the point then that the Security Council's duty, the Secretary General's duty, is to speak the truth and to power. That is his job. That you are being hypocritical. You are not doing the right. You are not defending the defenseless. But Brutus Gali, sadly at that time, just gave the Security Council 3 options. Take what you like out of the 3 options. Massive deployment, which was not possible. Withdrawal, which we made impossible. Or downsize. So I want to give more time for us to exchange so that it's not just a lecture by Gambari. So I'm going to come to some conclusions. That, number 1, the Security Council, which is the muscle of the United Nations, proved itself to what it is, a political institution that functions in concentric circles of interest and relative influence. On the outer circle is we, the non-veto wielding members of Council, Security Council. Served every 2 years and we're out. Yeah. The next circle is those members of Council who also belong to NATO countries. The third is what is called the P5. P means permanent members, 5. I mentioned in the countries. But then the inner circle of the P5 is the P3, Britain, United States, and UK. And then the most inner circle is the P1. Do you know what P1 is? United States. What the United States doesn't want cannot happen. Cannot happen. And that's conclusion number 1. The Security Council must be reformed. It was organized 1945, over 75 years. Most of Africa were not even members. It has to be reformed and expanded to reflect the reality of the world. Germany is not a member. Japan is not a member. India is not a member. No country in Africa is a member. Brazil is not a member, not a permanent member. So the Security Council, for it to be effective, must be reformed and expanded in both categories. And Nigeria has to be a permanent member of a reformed and expanded Security Council. Yeah. I'm not saying that because I'm a Nigerian, but we have proved our credentials. We are willing to sacrifice. I told you, 800 soldiers in one conflict, Sierra Leone. You know, we are a peacekeeping nation. We used to be number 5 largest, the 5th largest true contributor to the UN. And then if you say democracy, and it's a game of numbers, right? Yeah. Then how can you exclude Africa? How can you exclude Nigeria? The second conclusion is that the genocide in Rwanda had the additional and perhaps unintended consequence of reawakening government in Africa to an appreciation of their own responsibility to protect their citizens. You see, Rwanda taught Africans not to rely purely on the goodwill of the United Nations or the Security Council. And therefore, there's a need for Pax Africana, for Africa to develop its own resources and mechanisms to initiate effective and robust engagement to resolve the problems of the continent. And that's why I talked about ECOMOG in West Africa. And now I also want in closing that the time has come to really make operational. Again, many of you may not be aware, there's something called African Standby Force. The idea was to have 5 battalions, well equipped, 1 from West Africa, 1 from East Africa, North Africa, Central Africa, Southern Africa. And I was privileged to go and review the preparedness of this standby force to intervene in cases like Rwanda, where there's gross violation of human rights or genocide. And I found, in the conclusion, I was asked as a private citizen, 2013, to do this review. Guess who is the most prepared of all the regions? West Africa, because we've done it before. Yeah. Guess who is least prepared? North Africa. They are basically fighting among themselves. In between, the second most prepared was East Africa. And the third was Southern Africa. So my recommendation then, as I want to reinforce now, you are the leaders, not only of the future, but of now. We must make that African standby force operational. It was supposed to be operational by 2015. We're already 2024. Because imagine if we had that, we would have deployed in Rwanda, we would have solved the problems. And then you will see the United Nations tagging along because they always want to take the credit for other people's sweat. But I don't mind them taking credit, but we must take the responsibility of protecting our citizens by ourselves. Also, we must govern ourselves properly, such that politics of inclusion, justice, because politics of exclusion, injustice, create the climate whereby we have all these conflicts in Africa, which some of which lead to genocide. In any case, and this is my last point, the entire African Union was established because before it was the OEU, which some people say is like a trade union of dictators. But we said we need a new African Union, strong, powerful, right? And the creation of a force that will intervene and put aside the sovereignty concerns and non-interference in the internal affairs of member states, important principles, but they don't override massive violation of human rights and genocide. That was part of the constitutive act of the African Union. That's why it was established. Let us make it happen. Africa must take its own destiny, political, economic security in its own hands. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll be having a very short musical interlude. Please be seated. Be seated. Thank you so much, sir, for that exposition. We'll be having a very short musical interlude from Rwanda, a Rwandan song.
Murumve twana twanjye n'abarazurukundo murarugira intego mwese aho mujya hose rubabe rumutako mwiza rubara ngarama bari nijoro muzabona ibibagora bizakagutambamira urwo rukundo murabe maso hatagira umwanzu bacamo icyanzu murakomeze mutwaze ntabwo nzabahana nzagumana namwe ntsimbura ibibarwanya wa mwanzi w'icyatwa ubagarura mu cyaha nzamukubitira njamwemure muhumure naratsinze nemekuru ntihagire ikibaka murizihirane cyane mumenye kunda umwanya wanjye ntibaguhinda kandi umusanga ntukabikangwe ujye umpamagara nanjye nze tujye tujyana niyashire n'insazi ururumuye niba kandi usanga ari wowe ujye umuhu ngo ujye unyambaza nkuvure nawe urumurwa muhumure naratsinze niyemeye ku rukundo ntihagire ikibaka
Can we once again put our hands together? Thank you so much. The Chancellor, sir, we're gradually winding down at this very unique event today. We have thus far seen video documentaries depicting the horror of 1994 genocide in Rwanda, giving us hope of a new Rwanda, by extension, a new Africa. We have listened to His Excellency's, Ambassador Christophe Bazivamo, paint a clear picture of the heart of Rwanda concerning that very historic incident. We have as well listened to Professor Emeritus, His Excellency, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, bringing us his own account as an insider and all the politics that transpired in the course of that horrendous event. Part of the reason why we put this event together, the Chancellor, sir, is to expose our students, especially the students of political science and international relations, to the practical knowledge of global politics as it works in real life. This, of course, resonates with our departure philosophy here at Covenant University, moving from knowledge to empowerment. With your kind permission, sir, we would like to have a few of our students interface with His Excellencies and get more information, thus deepening their knowledge of this very important incident. We are going to be very clinical with this session so that we can save time and move to the concluding part of this event. If you want to ask questions, please introduce yourself properly, mention your names in full, mention your department, and ask your questions, then mention the name of the person you are directing your question to. You may not know the names of His Excellencies. You just mention the ambassador, Mr. Ambassador, you mention the High Commissioner here in Nigeria, or you mention Professor Ibrahim Gambari, of course, you can relate with that. Please, can you indicate if you want to ask a question? Students in political science, students in international relations, students in policy and strategic studies, and of course, public administration at the postgraduate level. International students celebrating your week is a unique opportunity for you to interface with these eminent professors and His Excellencies. Professor Gambari is eager to have your questions. I just confirmed from his PA. Please, can we do that very clinically? Can somebody help me with the mic? Dr. Excellence Oluye. We have, how many students are we taking? Postgraduate students, international students. We're going to make it, we cross-fertilize ideas. We have it across board. International students, let me start with you. Raise up your hand, please. Beautiful. You introduce yourself properly. Mention your country. International student number 1. Let me go to postgraduate student number 2. I want students from each of the program in our department. Are you in international relations? Political science, number 3. You are number 3, political science. You are in 100 level, right? You are also in 100 level. Another level, 300 level student. 300 level, beautiful. International relations. Number 4, Policy and Strategic Studies. Policy and Strategic Studies number 5. I think we are good. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please, can you hand over the microphone to number 1? Who has the microphone? Yes, please. This way. You heard instruction. Introduce yourself properly.
I am Wakai Theophilos now from the Republic of Cameroon. I am in the Department of Biochemistry. My question is to the Professor Emeritus and the former representative of Nigeria to the United Nations. Sir, I wish to know, you saying, as an insider, you are giving us some secrets of things that happen at the United Nations. I would like to know, we have been getting these complaints even in books since secondary school till now that United Nations does not help us. So what exactly do we go there to do if we know we are not going to get help from them? Thank you.
Please, number 2, please. We are being clinical with this session. Can I request that those of you seated behind should just file out? I saw the 300 level student in international relations. Please, you are sitting too far. Can you file out from the aisle? Walk to the aisle. Norma. Yes. Number 2, please. Hurry up.
Yes, sir. Chancellor, please permit me to stand on already established protocols. My name is Mogbolu Nesuchi Manuel. I'm a master student of international relations. My question is to the keynote speaker. And my question is simple. We're in a meeting here, we're in a conference that is talking about an African country. Where is the AU in this meeting? When I saw the flyer, the first question that came to my mind was, where is the AU? We have time and again where Africa is being discussed and AU is absent. And my question is, what exactly is the AU doing? Are we saying that we are going to expand ECOWAS? So it will no longer be Economic Community of West African States, it will now be Community of African States. Because we need a body in Africa. For how long will we continue to rely on the United Nations? For how long? For how long? That is my first question. And the second question is to the representative from the Rwanda, I think that's his name. And my question is, what is the state of education in Rwanda? Now, when I say what's the state, I'm not asking of whether the classes have air conditions or they are swimming pool facilities. My question is, are they educated well enough about this history? When I was in primary school, we were taught history and we were learning Mungo Park and we were learning Mary Slessor. Do we not have people who did Nobel things in Africa? Why can't we have those things in our history? So my question is, are these videos that have been played, are they part of their lecture slides in the university? Thank you.
Sorry, please can I, thank you. Please, can I just draw attention to this? You mentioned the representative of Rwanda. Do you mean His Excellency the Ambassador? Perhaps we should enlighten our students that Commonwealth countries use high commissions and non-Commonwealth countries use embassies. So His Excellency is the substantive ambassador. He is the High Commissioner and doubles as the ambassador of Rwanda to Nigeria. Can we put our hands together for him?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alakba Christy Stephen Oluwasegun. My question is directed to Professor Ibrahim Gambari. You said, I'm just hoping right now, you said in the meeting that was held in the United Nations, there was a particular statement that was made that the whites can't waste their energy over Africans. I have a question. There's a particular section in the charter, the treaty that was signed in 1945 that says everyone must have the right to life. Why can't they consider that and then send their military members to Rwanda to stop the issue of genocide at that time? That's my question. Thank you, sir.
The next person, please. Mr. Mark.
Good afternoon, everybody. Permit me to adopt the already established protocols. My name is Mark Jatta, I'm a postgraduate student of Policy and Strategic Studies. My question is to Professor Ibrahim Gambari. Sir, you painted a very grim picture of the situation, the history in Rwanda, and personally, I was deeply touched. And I was equally disturbed about the complicity of the United Nations as it concerns issues pertaining to Africa. My question really is this mantra, never again, not merely a farce? Currently, what is happening in Gaza, in my view, is similar to a callous genocide that should never happen. Has the United Nations Security Council and their set of cartels, political cartels, in my view, really learned a lesson from Rwanda? Thank you.
Thank you. The last person.
Good afternoon, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. My name is Oluwatomi Akiola, a student of International Relations. My question is about how you said in West Africa, particularly Nigeria, we are ready, or we are like the big brothers being ready to make a change. But sir, you gave an example of how Nigeria sent over 800 soldiers to go and to lay down their lives in Sierra Leone, which has such a huge impact today. But sir, the Nigeria of then is so different from the Nigeria of now. The Nigeria of now has holes. The justice level of Nigeria of now is so low. Our presidents, our governors and officers, no offense, care really little about the well-beings of Nigeria. How can the Nigeria of now, first of all, even be transformed in order for us to even help Africa? How can we be the big brothers when internally Nigeria of now is so decentralized and there's no unity? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would request His Highnesses to react to Mr. Ambassador, sir. Would you want to use the podium, sir?
Your Excellencies, all protocol observed, I wish to take this opportunity once again, opportunity offered by one of our students about education, or state of education in Rwanda. So let's say that what happened in Rwanda is a strong lesson for everyone, and especially a lesson to all Rwandans, because nobody would wish to have it again. There people were living at that time who is still alive, but there are actually many who are young people. In Rwanda, like in many countries in Africa, we have almost 70% of the population who are young people, below 35. So it is important then, from our sad history, to ensure that our young generation, most especially, do know about the reasons, do know about the importance actually of avoiding whichever could bring divisionism among people, whichever could bring hate among people, and then to strategically move forward, avoiding this to happen. So all Rwandan policies are strategically done with an element of, first of all, bringing all people together. You know, Rwanda has chosen reconciliation. We have removed all issues around ethnicity in our national document. We do not talk actually about ethnic groups. We are all Rwandans, and we push actually for this to be the way to go by everyone. So this is a deliberate policy to ensure people know about the history, all levels, and also know about which are the different ways of preventing this atrocity we have suffered from to never happen again. And in all, let's say, for instance, every year, we have this kind of commemoration. It is not only at national level. You have it at all levels, being at maybe governor level, district level, community level, so that people take time to discuss all these matters, what to avoid and what to embrace, and how to move forward together. And we have been again back in our traditions to find out which are the unifying elements, the unifying elements our ancestors have been using to keep Rwandan and Rwandans together, because it is known before colonialism there was no issue among Rwandans. We were one people, one destiny, working together in harmony. And later on, it has changed. So which were the unifying elements? And then to bring them back and to ensure all young people in all sectors do know about patriotism, do know about values, which we have to keep and actually to ensure we pass them through generations. And it is also important to know that education is not about sitting in a school. We have these programs on radio. We have these programs in all channels of national television. But we also put measures around to avoid hate speeches, to punish whoever is circulating with kind of mobilizing other people to hate others, and to ensure we actually give the right direction to every and each one. So to say in summary, this kind of education to bring the positive understanding, to bring cohesion, inclusion, it is in all policies of our national programs, in all policies, and it is actually given through different channels, different ways, being normal public talks, meetings at grassroots levels, national television, radio, media. So, and also kind of constant evaluation to see how far we have gone from far we have come from far, and every and each year we do kind of evaluation to understand which are the remaining challenges, and this is publicized in national media, radio, and discussed at all levels, so that everyone is on board, so that we don't leave anybody behind. So this is the commitment, and we say, if you are committed and you own your own policies, not something we are implementing from some other people, and then you just create awareness around it, you bring the maximum people on board, it helps. And again, you put facts on the table, you discuss. We have a national dialogue every and each year where you bring all different people, where you bring all different levels of our Rwandans from actually the cell level, sector level, district level, national level, in a national dialogue every and each year. And this is also wired so that everywhere, wherever Rwandans are, can also put question. We are helped by actually the new technologies. Wherever you are, you can actually put a question to the President of the Republic. You can put a question to whoever you want the person to respond. And this helps us to understand things the same way and to embrace our policies and then to challenge each other wherever it is needed. So I have been long, but I want to say that it has become a national program, not something to put only in schools and think it is enough. We have this in schools, but most programs are actually in all different policies. Thank you.
I suspected that many of the questions would be directed at me, and I'm prepared. I took notes because I've always believed that the best teacher has to be a perpetual student because then you are challenged and you have to respond. No, those questions are very, very important. There are 5 of them. I'm going to be very brief. The first question is, what do we go there to do at the UN? Now, turn the question around. Why do every time a country becomes independent, the first thing they do is go to the United Nations and register their presence? Secondly, how come nobody has ever left the UN? It was established in 1945 with 45 members. There are now 192. So there is something of value, obviously, to the members, and it's real. Because first, make note, there are many United Nations in one. And I'm sure, because this is a faith-based university, we'll talk about Holy Trinity. So in the same way, the UN has many parts. There's the UN that is political, Security Council. There's the UN that's humanitarian, United Nations High Commission for Humanitarian Affairs. There's a UN that promotes human rights. Okay? There's a UN that promotes development. WTO, World Trade Organization, of which in Nigeria is now, for the first time, a first woman, first African Director General, is to promote world trade. Or the IMF, the World Bank are part of the UN family, you know. So you cannot say the UN family or the UN in various parts that I've just briefly mentioned are useless. In any case, in any forum where matters affecting your survival and your interests are being discussed, you have to be there, you know. And it used to be said, too, that you cannot shave a man's head in his... We must be there. Okay, to register our sovereign right, to participate, and to help define the rules. Because the UN is supposed to be rules-based, promote rule-based international system. And if you are going to be subject to those rules, you will be part of its definitions. We have to be there. That's why I'm also arguing, not only must we be a part of the United Nations, but we must be part of the Security Council, where even issues of political matters and security are being discussed. Also, the UN Charter, if you read it, particularly students of international affairs, you see there's a chapter 7, which is UN enforcement powers. But it's also chapter 8, regional arrangements. So it does not mean that even when Security Council has primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, primary doesn't mean exclusive. They have to work with regional arrangements, such as in Asia, in Europe, and in Africa. In any case, Lord Caradon, who used to be UK ambassador to the United Nations, particularly, by the way, he served as colonial secretary here in Nigeria before going on to those heights. He said there's nothing wrong with the United Nations except with its members. There's nothing wrong with the United Nations except its members. Because who is the United Nations? It's the members. So we have to pursue. You can't say your organization is useless without saying why is it not fulfilling its mandate? It's because the member states in their various responsibilities are failing. So you have to target the real enemy, not the UN as an organization, but the UN as an associate of member states. Finally, if there was no United Nations, chaos. Everybody can just do what they like. So somebody has to set the rules. That's why you cannot go and invade another country without Security Council authorization. Even all this Sierra Leone I mentioned, Liberia, we have to get the permission. Even the French wanting to do something, they have to get permission. Because there has to be somebody that orders and have some rules. So that will be complete chaos. Everybody doing what they like, how they like, when they like. And finally, for Africa, the UN has been useful to us because for decolonization, that's where we went, and badgered the Western countries to say colonization is wrong, it must end. Where did we go when we were fighting apartheid? UN. That's why Nigeria was chairman of the UN Special Committee Against Apartheid for 25 years. I was the last one. And almost 30 years ago, again in April, Nigeria was the last chairman of the UN Special Committee Against Apartheid. Two, where is the AU in all of this? Yeah, the UN is there. And the African Union is there. Where is the African Union? It could be more effective. And what is wrong or makes for the weakness of the African Union is leadership. Every organization needs leadership. When there is leadership of the AU, it works. When Obasanjo, Bouteflika, Wad, Mbeki, Thabo Mbeki, the Egyptians, Mubarak, the African Union moved. Our voices were heard. We need to build on the leadership. We don't have a Security Council like the UN, thank God, but without leadership, it will not move. In any case, African Union promotes African Free Trade Union, is promoting African standby force that I mentioned. The regional economic communities like ECOWAS are the pillars on which an eventual united Africa will be built. So we have to strengthen it, and leadership is key. Third question, right to life. When the Americans said no American life, well, incidentally, just before going on to, in terms of the role of the UN as to set the rules, when America invaded Iraq, Secretary General Kofi Annan said this war is illegal because it has no authorization of the Security Council. For that, they nearly tried to get rid of him, the Americans. But he took on because he's saying the rules of this organization does not permit anyone, big or small, to just go and do what they like. So you need that organization that sets the rules. Now, the Americans were frustrated because of what happened to their soldiers in Somalia. That's what prompted that remark that the life of an American soldier is not worth dying in Africa. But it was out of frustration. Since then, actually, American soldiers have died in Africa. In Niger, you have them there. In fact, they are struggling to have more American presence including possible in our country. And I hope it never happens, that to have American base or Western base here. Our founding fathers fought against that in the 60s, Anglo-Nigerian Defense Park. So they are there, but it's out of it, but we should hold them responsible. With power comes responsibility. If you are a permanent member of the security with veto, then we have to challenge you to rise up to your responsibility. So it's up to us to hold them to account, not to excuse them to say, okay, then, yeah, you can ignore us. In any way, it's not in their interest to ignore us anyway. We have too many resources. It's not in their interest. So they will be present. But it's for them to be present in the right way and in ways that reinforce what we want, not what we want. Fourth question, complicity of the UN Rwanda is never again not a farce. But it's not that whether or not the Western countries have learned a lesson, it's whether all of us, the human race, have learned a lesson. That's why I mentioned charity must begin at home. At home, we must govern properly. Justice, equity, fighting inequality, politics of inclusion, so that you don't create climate for genocide. So it's the responsibility of all of us, collective responsibility. But above all, I also said that we must take the principal lead, not wait until the others do what we need to do. And finally, I must say, for the UN, even in Gaza, 142 UN staff have died since January. They're still there, helping the poor, providing humanitarian assistance, dying for a greater cause than themselves. Finally, domestic big brother is Nigeria of then in Sierra Leone, not different from the Nigeria of now. Two answers. First, that no nation can wait until you solve all your problems before you play a role externally. Otherwise you are not part of the world. Even Russia is still part of the United Nations. It has problems. Yeah. Finally, my own thesis as a PhD student, and those of you look it up, is the linkage between internal politics and foreign affairs. And I was arguing then, as I argue now, that your voice cannot be strong abroad if it is not strong at home. You cannot give what you don't have. Commonsensical. So if we want to play a greater role, we have to show leadership by example. And in that thesis, I drew a linkage between domestic politics and foreign affairs. And say foreign affairs and foreign policy is not dogon turenchi, as they would say in not big grammar. You are saying, here is who we are. It's defining who we are and what we value in the world. So that linkage, but you can't wait until you solve all problems at home before you deal with external. Otherwise, as it's said in Yoruba, maybe I shouldn't speak in Yoruba, because some people don't believe Gambari speaks Yoruba. It's okay. So even to prevent your own house getting burnt, you better pay attention to the house that is. I've also, final point, in the Buhari administration that I was privileged to serve as foreign minister 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago. We had the policy of concentric circles, that the foreign policy of Nigeria at the core should be the protection of Nigeria's security, the welfare, and the well-being of our people. But next, we must pay attention to our neighboring countries. Next, West Africa. Finally, Africa, and finally, the world. So you have from the inside, outside. The world has also changed. Nigeria has changed since then. Now, the outside is now going to be playing a role inside. So it's now going to be an interplay between the inside and the outside and the inside. If you want more of this, I'll be back here to come and give some lectures. at no cost. Thank you very much.
Can we once again appreciate His Excellency, Professor Ibrahim Gambari? Thank you so much, sir. What a day. Please, can we be seated? I would rather have been surprised, Prof, if you concluded your lecture without mentioning concentric circle of Nigerian foreign policy. My students were excited because it has remained a very seminal topic and title for them in their foreign policy classes across all levels. Thank you, sir, for that contribution to knowledge. Can we once again put our hands together for him? It's my honor at this point, with the permission of the Chancellor, to invite the Oloto of Water, His Royal Majesty, to bring us goodwill message from our community.
Thank you. Please let me align with the existing protocol. But I would like to recognize the Chancellor, Bishop Dr. David Olaniyi Oyedepo. I would like to commend the initiators of this reflective lecture, that is the United Nations Information Center, Covenant University, and the Rwanda High Commission in Nigeria. I also want to charge the organizers not to relent in their efforts in ensuring global and sustainable peace. Particularly, I want to thank Professor Gambari for taking us to the memorable lane to curb the occurrence of genocide in any part of the world. We've witnessed it a couple of times, and it is not nice for us as human beings. We must strive as leaders to promote peace, because it could be any one of us. And in conclusion, I would like to appreciate Bishop Oyedepo for his continuous outstanding leadership. May the Lord Almighty continue to favor you. Thank you, and God bless.
His Royal Majesty, let's once again appreciate His Royal Majesty for the goodwill message. Thank you very much, sir, for honoring our invitation at the shortest notice. May I respectfully invite the Vice Chancellor of Commonwealth University to perform the next assignment. The Vice Chancellor, sir.
The Chancellor, sir. There is no doubt that we have been tutored here today. We have been learning, relearning, and of course, unlearning from those wonderful presentations, particularly from the keynote speaker here today. And as students here, you get set to write an exam afterwards. Well, there's still going to be one more shot before we go today. And I have the singular honor and privilege to most respectfully invite our dear Chancellor, Dr. David O. Oyedepo. Please rise as we receive him.
Thank you. Please be seated. I want to deeply appreciate the privilege given Covenant University to host this event. I
So United Nations Information Center, thank you for choosing this place for this event. And for that erudite lecture that we just had, highly informative, it couldn't have been less. We're talking of a well-experienced, well-knowledge, highly exposed individuals to deal with the subject of this matter. My own elder brother. And for that great offer to be here again and help educate our people. Our goal as Covenant University is to raise a new generation of leaders with a new mindset, a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things. We have the African Leadership Development Center that's offering short-term courses on various certifications on leadership. Every time I reflected on wars in Africa, I moved to tears. And today is not an exception, particularly watching that gruesome video. Man to man, same nation, unwarranted. It's unacceptable. Everything that may be done should be done. And as I was listening to the lecture, here is my remarks that I made from home. It's time to awake and take responsibility. That's the cause. Waiting for others to come and help is a waste of life. It's time to awake and take responsibility. Those who won't take responsibility today will end up as liabilities tomorrow. It's time to awake and take responsibility. It will interest this audience that Covenant University was crafted indigenously. There was no external input from any source. Our core values were original. Our founding philosophy was original. Our structure original. Driving at a particular goal. And today the world recognizes that. We produce the most employable graduates in Nigeria, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and never run out. The Times Higher Education invited us to speak on the story of our success. Our Vice Chancellor was there. How do you raise this kind of students that are causing waves all around the world? By taking responsibility. We know what we need. Nobody else knows what we need like you. We know what we need. So I'm not surprised that they will sit back. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I've been around quite a number of other friends from other races, and I know how they look down on anything from this side. How your skin looks like a picture of inferiority. And this we have to address. What the lecture did extremely well. We need to be awake to take responsibility. We must rise to take responsibility for our destiny. We must rise to take responsibility for our destiny. And I think this is the case today with most part of Africa. Waiting for someone else to come and do it for us. Waiting and wasting. Waiting and wasting. There's this proverbial picture in the Bible of a man that was waiting for 38 years for someone to help him. 38 gruesome years. He would have wasted his life completely. I have no man. You have a number of people today, a number of nations in Africa, no one is helping us. No one is helping us. It's time we awoke from our sleep and take responsibility. But what it takes, who will believe today that Africa led the first two civilizations the world ever knew? Africa led the first two civilizations the world ever knew. We believe that today. We are now almost 100% a consumer nation, with almost nothing to push out. It's time get out of our slumber. We have been too long asleep. We have been daydreaming. It's time to take proactive steps to rewrite our story. It's time to take proactive steps to rewrite our stories. I've always believed in finding indigenous solutions to indigenous problems. Now, before the colonial masters came, who taught our parents what is edible and what is not edible? Who taught them how to defend their territories? It was tough for these foreigners to find their way. Who created for them the implementation for farming? The implement for farming. Indigenous thinking brought about indigenous solutions. They took delivery of their children. You say, but were they not all dead? That's why we're here. If they were dead, we won't be here. They know how to take delivery and how to take care of the baby and the young mother. Out of intuition, out of necessity. We need to come to a point of necessity where we sit down to solve our problems. And I love that statement, that where there is no justice, there cannot be peace. We should be sensitive to injustice and try to address it amicably, in a civilized manner. We are what it takes. I grew up in a royal environment, and my uncle was George. And I know how they reason things out, in spite of not going to school, not having gone to school. They knew how to sort things out. How can we be like this and be watching things just driving us? People are living. We must create an environment to keep the strength of this nation home. We must do all we can. We'll all agree that in the animal kingdom, all animals find local solutions to their local problems. They don't get visa. They don't import goods. Yet, their life cycle continues. They solve all their problems where they're found. Plants don't move, yet some plants are 200 years. I read of one recently that was 700 years old. A plant, drawing all its nutrients from where it is. We are what it takes to solve our problems. There is no amount of foreign interest or support that will be a substitute to indigenous engagement in finding solutions to the issues of our day. I wasn't there, I didn't spy through the Keynote lecturer's note, but I came with this thought in my mind that it's time we wake up and start finding solutions. I saw students being brought back from outside the country, mentally derailed through drugs and all that. No, this cannot continue. Let's create an alternative and secure the destiny of these children. That's how Covenant came to be, with its own unique program, in an effort to find solutions. I want to believe what we had in Rwanda will never happen again. Amen. It's a statement of hope. I want to take responsibility to make it happen. I believe in the standby force of Africa. I believe in it with all my being, with everything I have. I want this audience also to know that immediately after that genocide stopped, we were among the missions that sent relief to Rwanda. We sent relief to Liberia 3 times. We sent relief to Sierra Leone. I hate human oppression. I hate human suffering. Every normal person hates it. And what we're trying to do is, let's build bulwarks against its further happening. We have seen enough of it. We shall not see it again. We have seen enough of it. And whatever is happening around the world, God will help us to overcome them. Enough of shedding innocent blood. That is inhumanity. That's not normal. Only thinkers can make the best of knowledge because the value of knowledge is in its product. It's not just knowing what it is turning those paper knowledge to products. How do we turn this to real-life solutions? All our students who are here, that's what we should be bothered about. How do we turn this to real-life solutions? It's clear that most outstanding leaders are wild and wide thinkers. They think outside the box. They think broadly. They think the future. They look at the present. Look, we don't want this. How do we stop it from going into the future? And they start working at it. I want to believe it's time for Africa to start thinking forward. It's time to start thinking forward. Nothing defines mentality or destiny like mentality. It's our imagination that sets pace for our destination. I undertook a study some 25 years ago on the human brain, and to my amazement, the human brain is the same for all races. For all races. This applies to both male and female. And the brain is said to have about 86 billion neurons. Each neuron is a little linear center capable of storing knowledge. Well, Africans are brilliant. Africans are brilliant. Put them on any platform. But when are we going to turn this brilliance to products? I believe it's time to work at it. Each neuron desires to be fed with vital information to be healthy enough to perform at peak and optimal levels, thereby provoking creativity. We need creative solutions. There are diverse problems out here. A usual approach will not solve it. We need to create a way forward. If we fail to feed and exercise the muscles of the brain through the art of peak learning and solution-driven thoughts, it will sag and become flabby, just like the muscles of a weak body that is not exercised. The hope of this continent are those of us sitting down in this room today. The hope of a bright tomorrow are people that are sitting down here today. We will not fear destiny. Amen. This is where my philosophy of equality of destiny stems from. We have same potentials, but different levels of utilization. In conclusion, Africans have been ravaged by wars and rumors of wars over several decades, which would not have happened if we were willing to take responsibility. War is one of the consequences of leadership failures. War is a crime against humanity. War erodes human dignity. War humiliates. War devastates and war destroys. The cost of war is inestimable. The cost of war is unbearable. It will be avoided by all means. The ghost of the Rwanda genocide remains scary. Even today, as we show the film, it's still haunting the continent, even after 30 years. In 100 days, about 1 million people were killed. And you saw mass graves. You saw skulls of human beings. No. I did a survey of wars in Africa some years back, and anytime I remember the Rwanda genocide, I became, and still am always emotionally aroused. I believe we must come out of it. And the rate of recovery in Rwanda is highly commendable. Highly commendable. It shows the set of policies is really working. It shows people have resolved to move forward and leave the past behind. I'm impressed by what is happening, and I believe it's just beginning. Greater days lie ahead of Rwanda. This kind will not happen anymore in Africa. Thank you all for listening.
We be seated, please. Thank you so much, sir, for shedding more light on that incident. With the Chancellor's remarks, we are about to shut down in the course of this event. I have the privilege to invite Dr. Ernest Ebi to move the vote of thanks. Dr. Ernest Ebi is the Honorary Consular of Rwanda in Lagos. Can we please put our hands together for him?
Thank you very much. You know, I have a very onerous task to stand at this podium after the Chancellor General has spoken and an erudite scholar like Prof has been here, but God help me. Yes. Chancellor, Chairman, Board of Regents, Bishop Dr. David Oyedepo, good day, sir. Mr. Vice Chancellor, Professor Abiodun Adebayo, His Excellency, Ambassador Christopher Bazemo, His Royal Highness, Royal Majesty, the Olota of Ota, Kabiesi, His Excellency UN Resident Coordinator, Mr. Mohammed Malik IV, ably represented here by Dr. Shei Shoromiko, our keynote speaker, very close friend of Rwanda, an esteemed professor, distinguished statesman, and patriot, diplomat, and exceptional national and international personality, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. Greetings. Distinguished deans, faculty members, students, staff, guests, and friends, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Rwandan community in Nigeria, the High Commission in Abuja, and my humble self as the Honorary Consul of Rwanda in Lagos, I extend my sincere gratitude to all of you for joining us today at this significant Ibuka 30 public lecture at the esteemed Covenant University, Ogun State. As we commemorate the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, we do more than gather. We join hands to honor the lives lost, celebrate the resilient spirit of survivors, and commit ourselves to building a future defined by peace and unity. I express our deepest appreciation to Covenant University under the able leadership of the Chancellor, Bishop Dr. David Oyedepo, for giving us this platform. The team, United Nations International Center, for collaborating with the Rwandan High Commission to Nigeria to host this public lecture. The latter provides a vital platform to share, learn, and reflect on the tragic incident of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. I want to especially thank the chairman and the Dr. Oyedepo for finding time out of his extremely busy schedule to be here with us. Indeed, it's a great honor. And also to thank you so much for the charge that you have given us this afternoon. It's quite thought-provoking that we have to, that it's time to awake and take responsibility. It's a great nugget, and it's something that we take to heart. It's a great charge. Thank you very much for those encouraging remarks. A special note of gratitude to our esteemed keynote speaker, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. Sir, your insights, expertise, and the sheer willingness to share your knowledge have immeasurably enriched this Quebecer 30 commemoration. Thank you for your dedication to understanding history and helping us to shape a brighter future for the young generation. Thank you very much. And Kabiesi, I want also to thank you for taking time of your royal duty to be here with us. I understand you're a professor, so you are somebody who also is very much interested in knowledge. So thank you very much for coming. And thank you for your kind words also. We appreciate you. Lastly, to all the attendees, particularly the students, 5 students that asked very thought-provoking questions, very brutal and frankly questions, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you, to the community members and friends of Rwanda. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and for actively participating in today's event. Your engagement and solidarity are a testament to the power of unity and collective remembrance. As we conclude this Quebecer 30 public lecture, let us carry forward the lessons learned and continue to work towards a more inclusive, peaceful society where such atrocities are never repeated. Thank you once again, and may we always remember, unite, and renew. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir. Please, can we once again appreciate Dr. Ernest Ebi? We shall be having our closing prayers shortly, and that will be followed with the Covenant University anthem before we exit the room. Let me announce to us, please, that all the students must remain seated after the anthem until the Chancellor exits this room with his distinguished guest. The Chancellor will have the honor to take a group photograph with our distinguished guest on this platform. I'll be announcing the order of photograph immediately after the Covenant University anthem. Thank you so much. May I respectfully invite Past Professor Akan Basi, the Dean of School of Postgraduate Studies, to lead us in closing prayers.
I kindly request that we rise as we return the glory to God, who has done us well in the course of this event. Father, thank you for how you've helped us. Thank you for the success of this event. Thank you for the knowledge that you've passed. We started with you, and here we are having the conclusion. We say, to you alone be all the glory. Thank you for healing our land, even Africa. Thank you for changing despair to hope in Africa, even in Rwanda. To you alone be all the glory. Father, we are praying again, never again in this land shall we have genocide anywhere in Africa. In the name of Jesus, everyone that came in here, as they go back, let your outstretched hands be upon them. In the mighty name of Jesus, to you alone be all the glory. For in Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Let's shake together in the goodness of the Lord. Surely God's goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and we shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
flying high on covenant wings. Wisdom's call for change, inspired of fire, with courage marching on in this God's own arrow shall fall on me. Covenant generation rise, like candlelight to shine. Glorious foundations glow, leadership skills still show. Passing from knowledge to empowerment, legalism to realism. Wisdom's call for change, inspired of fire, with courage marching on in God's own arrow shall fall on me.
May we please be seated? The Chancellor, sir. The Chancellor will be having a group photograph with our distinguished guests so that he may exit the room while the other photographs may proceed afterwards. Please, the principal guests of the university, those that lit the candle there, including the Oloto voter, KBAC, will join them with our Chancellor to have the first group photograph. My Chancellor, sir. Our distinguished guests, please, all the students should remain seated. Please, sir. Please. Please, sir. Oh, thank you. The KBAC will stand beside the Chancellor, the KBAC, then His Excellency, the Ambassador. That's right. Sit down. Please, Ibisu. Remain there. Huh? They're going to remain there. No, there's no problem. This is the person who is son of excellence. Dr. Excellence. See her. I'm not a student here.
Urumve twana tw'intabara z'urukundo urarugira intego mwese umujya hose rubabe rumutango mwiza rubara ngaramabari
uzabona ibibagora bizakagutambamira urwo rukundo
urabe maso hatagira umwanzu bacamo icyanzu
murakomeze mutwaze ntabwo nzabahanza
nzagumana namwe nsimbura ibibarwanya
wa
Students, please, can we be quiet? Students, please, can we be quiet? Students, can we be quiet, please? Please don't grow impatient. Be quiet. We're done with you.
kandi umusanga ntukabikangwe ujye umpamagara nanjye nze tujye tujyana niyashiri n'insazi ururumutera kandi usanga ari wowe ujye umuhu ujye unyambaza nkuvure nawe urumurwa
Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, please, may I request that Thank you so much. His Excellency, please, sir, you can, it's okay, please, you can read me. Just stay here. Just stay. Please, next on this list are principal officers of the university, please, our esteemed professors, deans of colleges and SPS, our chaplain, please, sir. These are the principal officers of the university, please. Mr. Emmanuel, are you done, please? His Excellency, please, sir, you may have to give KBC, you may have to still remain here, sir, for a few minutes, a few more minutes, sir. Yes. Please, Faculty of Department of Political Science and International Relations, please, can you come? Please, can we hurry up, please? Please join us, every faculty member present in this room. Every faculty member present, apart from the principal officers of the university. Please, can we hurry up, please, please, please. Faculty members. Students, please, can we be quiet? Can we be quiet, please? Some people can move to that. Okay, there we're there. Please, let's hurry up.
kandi umusanga ntukabikangwe ujye umpamagara nanjye nze tujye tujyana niyashiri n'insazi ururumutera
You can stand, don't worry. Squat a little, squat a little.
kandi usanga ari wowe ujye umuhu ujye unyambaza nkuvure nawe
Thank you so much. Please, sir, we are not, just 2 more minutes. The Rwandan community in this room, please. Rwandan community, please. Please, let's be patient. We're almost done. 2 more shots and we're good. Are they not elegant? Rwandan community, are they not elegant? Please put your hands together again for them. Sorry, please. 2 ladies can go to the other end. Okay. There are 2 ladies here already. One, yeah,
wamwanzi w'icyatwubagarura mu cyaha nzamukubitira njamwemure.
Thank you, sir. Next, please. International students, please make it very international students. Can we put our hands together for them? International students. Please hurry up, international students. One person should move there. Shunamite, move there, down there. Thank you. Finally, KBSC, finally. Of course, your children are here now. Your children are here, sir. Please, students, everybody wearing the t-shirt and the muffler. No, that will be the second to the last. KBSC can't live without his children taking shots with him. Everyone wearing the t-shirt, hurry up, please. And the mufflers. Obinna, start running from where you are. No, leave the faculty members. Please, hurry up, hurry up. Divide yourselves. The ladies are clustered around there, then the guys are. Please, move. Baby, go to the middle, just please, KBSC is in a hurry. Go there, come on. Go there. Spots down there. Please, hurry up, sir. Thank you, sir. Finally, our students should come to our students, please. You can, as much as principal officers of university, please. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what I said. The principal officers can leave. Thank you so much, sir. Our distinguished faculty members can also leave. Please, as students, just the much that the stage can take. Squat everywhere around KBSC. Squat everywhere. In 20 years, you can show this picture to your children. Squat everywhere. Squat around the KBSC. Yes, sit down, beautiful, around the KBAC. Squats, please. Make sure you don't obscure the KBAC and the ambassador. The lady there, that's the ambassador. Please, take as many shots as you can. Thank you so much. Please, can we give a round of applause to the KBAC and the ambassador? Please leave the way for the KBAC to leave. Students, don't cluster around that door. Get back until KBAC leaves, please. The ambassador is also exiting the room with his team. Thank you, everyone. God bless you.